Hey guys, been busy the last few, taking some time to preload the early fall catalog so things can get posted up ahead of time and I can maybe enjoy the early autumn for a change. Yeah, fat fucking chance. But nonetheless, wanted to check in on some stuff going down. By the time this goes up, we should be 4 weeks in on the relaunched Big Picture on The Escapist, which is going extremely well. Thank you all for that, sincerely. One thing I can say has been slightly more difficult to readjust to than I expected, picking topics. One of the reasons you haven't seen these go up quite as fast as I thought I'd be able to get them back up again is not super easy to sort back out. You know, when I have an idea, okay, should I turn that into another pilot for something? Should that become an In Bob We Trust? Should that become the next big picture? Should I, focus on that movie and turn it into a Gems? Really that good? Like, where does all this stuff go? So getting that sorted out and getting on some sort of a rough schedule is a priority going forward. We're going to see where that goes. Talking about doing some more stuff for The Escapist, actually, so we'll see where that comes in as well. So do keep an eye out for that. Just polished off a bit of a secret thing for them, and we'll see where it goes. If not, I'm sure it'll end up somewhere else. I did want to jump and bring you up to speed on some business stuff, and also, so this isn't just a Bob commercial, opine for real on some stuff that's going on and got my attention, but not necessarily things I can make a whole episode about in any timely fashion. First things first, though, I know you're all aware of my Patreon if you're watching this, but many of you may not be aware of my brother Chris's Patreon. He's doing podcasts, he's putting up little videos here and there, he's looking to put up some more stuff. Mainly, he's doing a bunch of different podcasts. If you're following me and you're giving to my Patreon, you really should be following him and giving to his and supporting his, because he and I collaborate on a lot of stuff. He helps out with a lot of what I do here, and also in terms of what you're helping him do when you help out his, I'm basically supporting me. He has a wife, 2 kids, he's got a house that he is always working on and building back up. And, so he has some real important responsibilities to help take care of and, help take some of the weight off of him. Give him a hand, because he's a real good dude and he deserves it. If you've seen the things that he helps me out with, already. I don't need to tell you that he's one of the best guys I know, and give him. So go on over to the Chris Chipman the Chip Patreon. I'll put the link down on the bottom. It's up on screen right now, or it should be if the edit works okay. So give that a look and give him your support if you can. Share his podcast, listen to his podcast, send him around, and drop him a few bucks on the Patreon. Hook him up. Speaking of my stuff on The Escapist as well, I'm going to be doing a Q&A episode of The Big Picture on the 24th. It's going to run. The deadline for questions is on the 21st, and I want you to listen very carefully, because questions always come up. Where do you ask them whenever anyone does a Q&A who has a big social media profile, because there's so many different ways to connect with someone. I will not answer questions asked on this video. On this video that you're watching right here, this In Bob We Trust. I will not answer questions asked anywhere else on my YouTube. I will not answer your questions asked by Twitter. If you email me, I will not answer your question. Not gonna happen. I will not answer questions asked in that form. I will answer questions, the only way I will consider answering your question is if it is posted in the forums or comments on the video on the Escapist website that the link that you're looking at right now, or the link down below in the description, goes to. So go there, log into the forums, sign up on the Escapist, log into the forums, post a question in the forums, or post a comment on the video. If and when the video gets a version logged up onto YouTube, post a comment there. I will, if possible, answer some of those. Deadline on the 21st. If you ask them in one of those 2 places, I will try to answer as many questions as I can, the good ones, the questions that aren't, jokes or dick questions that I have no business answering. So go to that video, go to the forums, go to the comments, ask some questions. Maybe I'll answer yours. Maybe you'll be the lucky one. I don't do a lot of Q&A videos. I should probably do more. We're going to give this a shot, so let's see how that goes. Okay, that handles the commercial stuff. So let's see, some news stuff. Just drop some thoughts on you, and you can go back about your day, and I can go back about my edit. So let's see what we have here. I wanted to get some thoughts in about this business with Colin Kaepernick and Nike. Colin Kaepernick, the football player, now I guess ex-football player, or currently not employed by the NFL football player, got the take a knee movement, really kind of took it, became the public face thereof. Has a big deal with Nike now. He's the new face of Nike. Obviously, I'm on the side of his. I don't think that surprises anyone who knows me, knows my views, politics, whatnot. I don't think that should come as a shock to anyone. The kneeling thing is clearly about police violence and racism, both of which are bullshit. Look at the stats. Trump and people making it into a respect the flag thing. Fucking stupid. So, yeah, if you're burning your goddamn stuff, sure, you can do that. Same principle that he can kneel by. Protest is legal, but only one of you is being a jackass, and it ain't him. So, I don't care about the shoe torching, sock cutting people any more than I give a shit about the comic brats chopping up toys on YouTube, or dumbasses breaking their Keurigs because Sean Hannity said, dude, remember that ignorant shit? I mean, the whole effigy, symbolic, substitutional violence aspect is super gross, and yes, if you're stabbing pictures of women who've made you feel insecure with knives online, like, that's basically a reverse bat signal as far as I'm concerned, or like Minority Report, but instead of the bald guys in the pool, they just need to go on YouTube and be like, oh yeah, that's a future serial killer right there, go get him, Tom Cruise. Like, at the very least, you're letting someone know that you're not a psychologically healthy individual. But otherwise, what interests me about the Nike and Colin Kaepernick thing, other than, the campaign is really good, they had that great commercial with all the diverse athletes and people doing really cool stuff, and do what you believe even if you have to sacrifice and whatnot, like really good, well cut together ads. Seems to be supporting a lot of good stuff, a lot of cool people in there, not just him, a lot of, famous athletes, a lot of not so famous athletes. Really, it's an interesting campaign. Nike always has good advertising. This is like back in the 90s, Nike had like Spike Lee directing ads. So they've always kind of been ahead of the curve on putting together good copy. What's interesting to me outside of that on it is on the political side, in terms of people reacting to it, is the left versus lefter than left part. Because, I mean, what the Republican reaction is going to be, the conservative reaction, and who cares, really? The only question was, are conservatives now so stupid that they're going to forget to take the Nikes off before setting them on fire? The answer was yes, some of them did, in fact, burn their shoes while wearing them. I mean, I assume some of that is like, YouTube comedy jackass wannabe stuff, but really, like, what's the difference between faking that and still doing it on purpose? You're still lighting yourself on fire in some way. But, like, every time a big company gestures in the direction of doing something right, like politically, every time you get, company puts a rainbow logo in their name, or you get something with Nike like this, the predictable reaction is that a lot of the mainstream progressives, quote-unquote centrists and whatnot, the media, however you want to call it, makes a big deal out of it, signals, yes, this is agreeable, hey, isn't this, a good thing? Fox News and the hobgoblins and whatnot have a cow, and that's the fight. And then you have the Chapo set, and, the quote-unquote Democrat wing of the Democrat Party, the too left for you set, brocialism, whatever you want to call it, will not necessarily jump up and say like, hey, Colin Kaepernick, we don't like you anymore, fuck you, but it becomes this thing to dunk on the people who are sincerely glad to see stuff like this. It's kind of like, LOL, love to support woke brands, oh, next is woke Walmart, I wear a rainbow hat, that means I'm resisting, hashtag, and this kind of mockery of suburban centrism, which I get, can be tiresome. And look, Nike is not good. Like, the point, like, no, of course not. Nike is not good, guys. And putting Colin Kaepernick in a commercial, whatever you think of Colin Kaepernick, does not make Nike good. Nike is not good. Nike is a company. Most companies are bad. Nike has sweatshops. Nike charges people like way too much money for shoes. Nike perpetuates a lot of negative stuff. Nike is not good. Companies are the best a company can be under there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, guys. The best a company can be is like neutral. That's the most that you can hope for from a company in general capitalism, is that they can be have no direct significant ill effect on anything. Most of the time companies are bad. It's just how it is. But if you think of yourself as fighting for progress and good causes and such, and you look to this and you only see dumb, woke corporate branding for you to be smug about, I kind of think you're taking as shallow and short-sighted a view of the whole picture of this, the big picture, and now I'm the escapist, as like suburban centrist Democrats. I'm not going to play the game and use neoliberal as though that's still a word with any coherent application in contemporary American politics. Fuck off. You're kind of playing the same game as the people who look at the rainbow clothes going on sale at Target once a month, 1 month out of the year rather, and saying, oh, hey, we won, everything's good now. Like, no, Nike isn't good, companies aren't good, but what Nike is an indicator. Nike is cynical and greedy and profit-oriented as fuck, and unlike the NFL, which is being stupid about the take-a-knee thing and short-sighted to boot because the team owners are mostly these old white assholes parking their money and sucking up write-offs for stadium expenses, they don't give a fuck, they actually follow, Nike does, good predictive business models. So if you're on the same general side calling Kaepernick and take-a-knee and Black Lives Matter is, etc., the takeaway from this bullshit shouldn't be, oh, this is dumb, Nike isn't going to help us win. No shit. The takeaway, at least from where I am, is Nike, whose business is, in this context, knowing who the winners and losers are in broad cultural trends, has calculated, by taking this side, that your side is gonna win. And that's a pretty good indication. That doesn't mean that, it's like, oh, hey, Nike is good. It means that this commercial, which, yes, it's a cynical thing, it's appropriative in some ways, but it's an indicator that says, okay, this is the winning side of this. This is where this is going. Because make no mistake, Nike is not brave. The people who are spending all these millions of dollars at Nike are not like putting their heads on a block and saying, we feel like being brave and risking our company and, putting ourselves and our safety and our security and whatnot on the line to support Colin Kaepernick and support, this protest against police violence. They're doing it because they've looked at this and they've looked at him and they've looked at the people who are mad at him and President Trump, and they've concluded that side, Colin Kaepernick's side, the anti-police violence side, the take-a-knee side, they've looked at it and said that's the side that's going to win this fight. That when the dust clears and settles on things, that is the version of America that's still going to be here in about a decade, and we want to still be selling shoes to them. Whereas the people who are mad and burning their Nikes and voting for Trump, the red cap motherfuckers, Nike is looking at that and seeing the same demographic trends that, frankly, everyone else who is planning to still be around and doing money in a decade is looking at, is saying, yeah, MAGA America is a fading, obsolete thing. People get mad at me when I say that shit, when I talk about, conservative America, red state America, Trump's America, the forgotten man, the vision of America, this sort of, lily white sort of thing. It's gone. It's over. It's brushed off. So, no, you don't have to like Nike. Fuck Nike. Nike, pay your workers a decent wage. Maybe move a shoe factory to here and pay people real wages instead of using slave labor and sweatshops to make your shoes. Absolutely. Fuck that shit. But if you're looking for something to take away from this, take away from it, hey, this right here, this is an indicator that says people whose business it is to know who's winning are saying the good guys are winning this fight. And it's not like you're not winning because, like, Colin Kaepernick is not winning because Nike got on his side. Nike getting on his side is an indicator that basically says he already won. His side won this, culturally speaking. Same deal, it's like with Muhammad Ali. I don't know if it's an exact comparison. There's been like this back and forth, because that's the first comparison everyone goes to when an athlete gets political. I don't know if it's an exact one-to-one comparison, but like, when you look at like the history of it, for a while there, even like, quote-unquote good sports writers back in the day said, oh, Ali, it's over. He stood up for what he believed in, but they took his title and he's not fighting, and you don't see him in the news other than talking about protests. So is he really there? But long term, who was the winner historically in that era, Ali or literally everyone else? It was Ali. So that's my rambling, nigh incoherent opinion on that. Okay, so I dropped this one in just as I was about to sit down and record this. We have a situation that happened with Marvel Comics hired Cain back on. She was famously the writer from the Mockingbird book that caused some of the nascent controversy that morphed into years ago what we're now calling Comicsgate. Brought her back on to write The Vision, a new book about the Vision spinning out of the Visions book from a while back. Marvel, for those of you who haven't been following what's going on in the actual pages of Marvel Comics, they've been doing some really unusual stuff with the Vision and various, related spinning off from the Vision characters. A lot of people thought, obviously when Age of Ultron was coming out, that Marvel would put focus back on Vision and maybe make him more of a conventional superhero in the Marvel books again. And instead, they brought him back, put focus on him, but really did very strange, unusual stuff. To their credit, to their very big credit, Marvel doesn't always have, as a comic book company right now, good ideas, but they seem to be willing to take a chance on a lot of really unusual stuff. So, credit there. Unfortunately, what no one in the comics industry right now seems to be willing to do is give things a chance, one other than the start. They'll say, yeah, sure, we'll take a shot at something, and then they won't, keep it out for anything, because all anyone gives a shit about is momentary numbers and pre-orders. So, Xander Cain has had this book coming out for a while now. Everyone knew this book was coming out, and we now get a headline comes in that this book has been canceled 3 months before it was supposed to come out. So this book is not due to come out for another 2 or 3 months or so. I don't have the full headline right in front of me, working from notes. Has not shown up in stores yet, and they've already pulled they've already canceled it. And by the way, this happens all the time. Supposedly we don't have the exact data in as to whether or not this was pre-orders or this was a decision that Marvel made where they wanted to do something else with one of the central characters in this, and it means that that book had to get changed around. But I think what a lot of people don't understand about this, that for those of you who don't follow Comicsgate stuff, because you don't follow what's going on in monthly printed comic books because you've kind of ducked out of the monthly grind of regular issue-to-issue comic books, because, at least looking at the sales data, the because on that would be you're a person. The reason this medium is dying on the vine, even as the stuff that the medium is about is wildly successful in every other realm of entertainment, is that there's basically a cartel that controls distribution of what ends up in your local comic book store, that is run by a middleman between local comic book stores and the big two publishers, DC, Marvel, and also several of the smaller ones, called Diamond Distribution. That as, basically in the 70s and 80s and 90s, when comic books left mainstream stores and disappeared from newspaper racks, long before newspaper racks themselves became a thing of the past, the direct sale market coming directly from publishers to comic book stores basically got taken over and subsumed by a single distributor called Diamond that handles the shipping, distribution, and the facilitation of all of the books coming to and from. And they have basically a monopoly on all of that going back and forth. You can Google to, look it up, see the actual hard data on it, but basically one company, one outfit operating more or less like a cartel. I mean, actually cartels are more democratic because theoretically there's more than one group involved in a cartel. So this is actually worse, is in charge of how all of these things go back and forth. And as such, the way that books get counted as selling and not selling, see, like I said, this is a little difficult to explain. There's going to be a lot of weird cuts in this one. The way that the numbers that individual comic book issues sell are counted and tracked in such a way that does not necessarily reflect, it reflects a little bit, it doesn't so much reflect the actual popularity of individual properties, individual characters, companies, books, whatever. It reflects how well they sell under the version of distribution that preserves the Diamond to DC Marvel to direct comic book store, local comic book shop model. And what that means in layman's terms is that this is why that thing that you sometimes hear about, where you have books that don't sell in individual issues because they cater to or are aimed at an audience that generally isn't going into the local comic book store, which, despite real efforts by Marvel and DC to kind of, and a lot of local comic book store owners to kind of broaden the audience that goes in there, the local comic book store is still mainly frequented by, at this point, the, previously 30-year-old, now 40, 50-year-old fan that's been reading since the Bronze Age. Mostly men, mostly white guys, not a lot of new blood, and not a lot of a broader audience. So you have these titles that Marvel does, the titles that the Comicsgate guys are always pissed about, the SJW comics, basically anything that stars a young woman or a person of color or something, anything that has a diverse lead, non-binary people, LGBTQ characters, that sort of thing. You'll hear about these books that come out, they get a lot of hype, they get very well reviewed, they don't sell in individual books because they're going into stores where the audience that would be interested in them isn't shopping. You have an audience that resents their presence in those stores, actively working to make sure that they don't get any kind of real push in many cases, in some cases. But then you find out that the collected versions of these do gangbusters business at scholastic book fairs, at other independent book fairs at schools. They sell in bookstores, they sell online, but the trades don't get counted as part of the how well does this property sell, because Diamond isn't as involved in that, because they're going to bookstores and they're bypassing that channel, so that is not so much suppressed as it's not as paid attention to. And that is how you wind up coming back around in this into this situation where a book like Vision, which was heavily promoted, had an author who, for good or ill, had a name. This is a well-known character, like the A-list of the B-list, an Avenger, featured role in Infinity War, can come out, and before it is even on the shelves, they've already made the decision to cancel it. And this happens all the time for a lot of different books, very often because, well, the pre-order sales weren't there is often a reason, or we didn't get the engagement that we wanted from the fan base in the local comic book stores as reflected in the Diamond numbers, because the numbers that we look at are entirely based on reflecting only the opinions of a dwindling fan base that only buys from certain creators and just wants the same stories and the same characters that they've heard before. And we're wondering why the mainstream superhero comic book medium is dying on the vine, and why you're in now this situation where the medium is falling apart. And it is. I mean, like, one way or another, it's pretty much over for individual paper comics, in my opinion. I think that's kind of been coming in general. I don't necessarily know that that's even that negative of a thing. Like, nostalgia-wise, I dislike it. I'm a physical media guy. I prefer that. But it's hard to argue that with magazines basically being a thing of the past, that this is, right on that same line. I feel like we're going to get to the point where one of the big two companies is eventually going to, or maybe it will be a mini major like Image or something like that, or maybe like one of like Marvel or DC will take one of their like individual brands, like DC's Vertigo or something, and say, you know what? Physical comics are not individual issues are just not going to be a thing for this anymore, because it's expensive, because the individual ones don't sell anyway, so that's going to be a digital thing, and it's going to come out on the service, and then if you want the collected version, it's going to come out in trade, and that's going to be out. People say that this means the death of local comic book stores. I think it means the end of some, but at this point, looking at the way that business is, I mean, as long as I have been an adult man, I'm 37, since my 20s, I can't think of a time when I have been in a functioning, thriving comic book store, like a store that was actually, supporting itself as money, as opposed to being something that, like, a retired fan had as a side business for themselves. I can't think of a comic book store that was supporting itself, making money, selling comic books. Even, like, back issues and trades. Most successful comic book stores now are hobby and collectible stores that also sell comics. That's the reality of the business, and it's been that way for a while, and I feel like it's going to it'll become more that. In much the same way that record stores and music stores stayed around for a good long time, even after records and vinyl became a niche thing, and they sold CDs and they sold cassettes, and even now there are still, here in Massachusetts we have a chain store, which I think has gone a little bit more national, but it has more of a presence here on the East Coast, Newbury Comics, which has kind of outlived bigger chains like Suncoast and Virgin Megastore and whatnot, that calls itself Newbury Comics. By the time, like, I was old enough to shop there, they barely sold comics. They sold like one rack of comics, and they'd become a music and DVD store that also had toys and t-shirts and collectibles. Now they are fundamentally, completely a toys and t-shirts and collectibles store that also has a little bit of physical media and a little bit of magazines and comics, but mostly it's like an indie think geek, basically. But it does suck, and it sucks for creators, because what are you going to do? How Marvel keeps hiring, like, really interesting writers and bringing people in to do really cool books, and then, how do you cancel something before you release it? Like, it sounds like that South Park joke, here's this money, and it's gone. Like, it never even had a chance. I mean, you might as well just not release the thing. And people will look at this, and what is mind-blowing about it is that you have this whole community that now calls itself Comicsgate, which, yes, a lot of that is grifters. A lot of that is people who have assholed themselves out of mainstream comics by being people that nobody wants to work with, or they're dicks, or they have weirdo creeper politics or whatnot, who have discovered that if they go on YouTube and rant about Star Wars or something and put up a Patreon, they can, suck money out of, sad dorks and retire on creator publishing. And hey, good scam if you can get it. But some of this is like people who actively believe that, comics industry is being destroyed by, letting women and gay guys write comics and ruin it by changing the characters and whatnot. I kind of feel like the idea that a headline can be, this book has been canceled 3 months before the first issue got to stores where we could see whether or not anyone wanted it, is way more evidence of what is causing this medium to fall apart and die than the people who are working on the stuff. Because if it's not being given a chance, then what are we even talking about? Anyway. Okay, I guess we'll talk about Henry Cavill as Superman, since I'm recording this, overnight on, I guess it was Thursday, now it's Friday. So who knows if this will change or not. This will, unless something major happens, this will probably end up being Monday's big picture in some way, so you just want to skim it a little bit. But, so we think Henry Cavill is out as Superman. Like, realistically, I don't want to be like, Mr. Hollywood inside baseball guy, because one, I'm not a Hollywood inside baseball guy, like barely, very few, like legit industry inside contact people. I'm mostly hearing the same kind of like scuttlebutt and third-hand stuff that everyone else does, if lucky. When I say everyone else, I mean other entertainment reporters, writers, critics, etc. People do talk to each other. But if you do follow filmmaking, if it's your job to follow this side of the business, and you know the way that things like this have happened before, if you've seen, I've been doing this for a long time, feels like a long time at least, and you've seen projects like this rise and fall, come and go, and whatnot, you kind of get used to the way the news cycle works, a little bit about how the industry plays out. Realistically, no one ever wants to say, oh, I know right now exactly what's happening, because things really can change right away. But if you were a betting person, if you were like in Vegas laying odds on what kind of business decisions were going to happen vis-a-vis the making of Warner Brothers superhero movies, which, by the way, you can bet on anything in Vegas, and people do actually bet on stuff like this. You can actually make, like, official, listed bets on things such as this. You can, like, call up and get odds on stuff like this. It's really bizarre. How sad must that be to be someone whose job it is to, like, monitor that kind of thing. Oh, you're in the business of gambling betting. Are you keeping track of, like, horses or football or fights? No, I'm trying to see who's playing Superman this month. That's what I do. That feels, I don't know, that sounds like dystopian to me in some way. That sounds like a parody of dystopia. So if you follow the business closely, and you've seen this kind of thing happen before, and you watched the production of Justice League, and the way that it came out, and, Zack Snyder having to leave the production, and all of the business coming onto it. As soon as that business started going on with this thing where we were pretending that the reason Henry Cavill had to have the digital stuff done to his face in Justice League was because he couldn't find the time to shave his mustache from the Mission Impossible movie to come back, like when they were pretending that that was an unsolvable problem that would prevent him from coming and working on this movie, as opposed to just, no, I don't want to, this isn't that important to me. That was the point at which you knew that he was probably not going to put on a Superman costume again for Warner Brothers. Like, anything can change. Anything can change. These things do happen fast. When the cast photo got taken of the Avengers, the last big photo before they cast Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, the reason Benedict Cumberbatch, or rather Doctor Strange in period, is not part of that cast photo is because hours before they had everyone on stage to take that photo, Joaquin Phoenix had just finished saying no to playing Doctor Strange. They had him on for yes. He said, yeah, sure, I think I'll do that. And then he said, no, I don't think I will. And that was the end. And it was going to be like this big thing, and then not. So these things can change like that. But at that point on Justice League, with all of that stuff falling apart, as soon as they were saying, no, you know what, we're cutting from 2 movies back down to 1. No, you know what, we're going to cut references to Darkseid. We're just going to scale it on back. We're thinking about not doing to be continueds on this one. You kind of knew that things were grinding to a halt, and that the plans were off, that they weren't going to, the Snyderverse was basically over. And that with that, if you had to place bets on stuff, your safe bet would have been Henry Cavill is not going to be Superman again, Ben Affleck is not going to be Batman again, that kind of thing, that they were going to probably finish Aquaman and see how that goes. And I still think Aquaman looks pretty good, we'll see, because they have Jason Momoa already making that movie, but everything else up in the air. And right now it looks like, we're getting reports in now that Henry Cavill is out as Superman. The thing is, you can never fully believe this stuff, because there's this thing in the industry called negotiating in the press, which basically means because nothing is official until there's a statement, anyone who wants to, who has sufficient juice or the ability to get it in there, can call someone that they know in the press up and say, hey, I've got a story for you, and then it gets in there, and it can be seen as putting pressure on a studio or on a casting agent or on an actor to do something. So Who knows what's going on there? This could be Warner Brothers saying, hey, Henry, we are okay getting rid of you if you don't stop, making demands and, shave your damn mustache next time. But it looks like he's out of this movie. This could be his agent trying to get more money. That seems to be what a lot of people are saying. His agent has been back and forth on Twitter and social media with quotes saying, no, he's definitely still playing Superman. Supposedly, this is like talks breaking down on him not being able to find time in his schedule to do a cameo in the Shazam movie. And Warner Brothers has been saying for months, basically making talk about negotiating in the press, making threats that, we'll just go ahead and make a Supergirl movie. That's our priority. And this would, to be clear, this is not like a movie of the Melissa Benoist TV show Supergirl. They're not doing the connecting the TV vaguely to the movies thing like Marvel sort of does. They're keeping that completely separate. They want to do a Supergirl standalone movie of a different version of the character. They've been saying that's going to be our priority instead of a Superman movie, and that we don't have plans to make another one. That is more or less seen as a threat. To do that instead of Superman as a way of saying, dude, Henry, we don't even need you, so, maybe stop being such a diva about this. Who knows? I do think that if it comes to pass that Warner Brothers is serious and they're not going to make a new Superman movie right away because of Supergirl, stranger things have happened. The bottom line for Henry Cavill is I do think he's out. We aren't hearing it officially yet because who knows, they might drop a dump truck of money on him. It's unlikely that they'd get started on anything because he's going to go off and make The Witcher for Amazon, which sounds like a very kind of labor-intensive thing that would take him away from doing anything for a while. He's not getting younger. These are very physically intensive projects. They're going to want a younger actor, period, to get in on this. They keep casting younger for these things. The running joke that a lot of people have been going with is that it's a surprise that he got out before Ben Affleck. He's not out before Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck has been out for well over a year. The reason that you're not hearing that Ben Affleck is out, again, more studio inside baseball stuff, Ben Affleck is back in alcohol treatment right now. He's back in rehab. I'm not telling any jokes about this. There's nothing funny about that. That he's back in, he has a lot of serious struggles ongoing for a long time with alcoholism. He's back in treatment for it. I hope it works out for him. They cannot legally, under his Screen Actors Guild Award rules, fire him or remove him from this project until he's out. That's on hold. That's he is going to be listed as Ben Affleck, still under contract to play Batman, at least until he's out of that. They're still going to make Wonder Woman movies. They've got Gal Gadot on. That's the only unqualified success that they've got. Aquaman, I'm sure that they're on a wait and see. I would not be surprised to see, they've already started talking about that the Cyborg movie would cost about $200 million. That was the news. They didn't say we're not going to make one. They didn't say we're still proceeding ahead, but they said that would cost $200 million, which is a really kind of sort of dickish way for them to imply in the press, guys, really, does anyone want a Cyborg movie? And Ray Fisher has a lot of prospects as an actor. He doesn't need this bullshit. It's a tainted brand. He needs to go. Ezra Miller seems like they're kind of trying to keep him around for The Flash. He's perfectly fine as The Flash. He is someone who should be trying to find a way out of this, because I don't really get Ezra Miller as an actor. I don't see what the big appeal is, but he is very much of this sort of, kind of gawky, stuttery, small-ish, wormy white guy thing that a lot of Hollywood movies right now sort of gravitate to as, yes, this is this sort of, less masculine version of Shia LaBeouf, sort of leading guy that Hollywood is really into. Same deal as the kid in Ready Player One. So I don't really see the appeal, but right now, clearly he fits the bill as what Hollywood sees as the young leading man of his type, so he can probably go off and write his own ticket for stuff. So why he is sticking with a loser brand like the DCEU right now, I have no idea. What's genuinely amusing to me is if all of this stuff actually comes through, if Cable completely out as Superman, Affleck out as Batman, and the takeaway here is what now seems to be Warner Brothers' real plan is that we're not going to do Superman. We are not in a huge hurry to get the Matt Reeves, the Batman, underway because Affleck's probably out and we don't know who's going to play him. So instead, we're doing Supergirl movie. We're going to do Wonder Woman 2 that is almost certainly going to, since they don't have any Justice League team-up movies or whatnot to lead into, almost certainly the to-be-continued post-credits thing on that will be Wonder Woman 3 coming soon. They've got Birds of Prey, aka the Harley Quinn movie coming, the Batgirl movie that may or may not spin out of that was supposed to be the thing Joss Whedon was going to do, but is now its own thing. And the next big CW DC push is the Ruby Rose Batwoman show. If you look at all of that, it looks amusingly you really can't take that as anything other than Warner Brothers looking at their balance sheets and saying, well, the only one of these that worked and that anyone liked was Wonder Woman. So you know what? Fuck it. This is the chick superhero brand now. We're gonna fuck Batman, fuck Superman. We're gonna do Supergirl, Birds of Prey, Batgirl, Batwoman. That's what we're doing now. I mean, we've got Aquaman and we got Shazam because we already made those. So whatever. But like Mera, you're now the co-lead of Aquaman. That's a thing. This is that seems to be the angle on it. And I mean, hey, cool. That's pretty interesting. That's everyone is looking for the way to differentiate themselves from Marvel in this kind of stuff. But it seems kind of quintessentially Warner Brothers that the way that they got into this mess in the first place is that rather than, kind of take their time and just make individual good movies and figure out how to fit them together as they went, they basically they basically committed to a 10-year plan, this big elaborate 10-year plan based on, okay, what is really, really hot in superheroes that as we're setting up our big universe right now is really big, weird, sort of auteur-driven, dark and angry 90s fanboy-pleasing stuff somewhere in between the Watchmen movie and the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. So let's make those, and we're going to rush ahead on a 10-year plan based on that vision of the DC Universe before asking whether or not anyone wanted that or if it was going to work. And now that hasn't worked, and now that they had, Man of Steel, which was divisive and didn't age well, and Batman v Superman, which was a disaster, and Justice League, disaster. Suicide Squad made money, but a dud creatively, and, has really done nothing for them other than, get everyone to agree that Margot Robbie looks hot as Harley Quinn. What a shock. And that people would pay to see a whole movie of that. Duh. So now, rather than look at that failed experiment of rushing ahead based on whatever was momentarily hot and making a huge plan and overcommitting to it, Warner Brothers seems to be ready to do the same thing again, where they looked at and said, okay, what is working for us right the hell now, right in this moment, and what's working for them right the hell now in this moment is Wonder Woman and the CW shows, and they've looked at that and said, well, okay, we're going to commit to the far-flung future of this franchise is exactly that, so greenlight a whole bunch of movies, and let's go, and we hope it works. So they had one hit female-fronted superhero movie, so that is what they're going to do for the next, 6 or 7 movies, is that, and hope that works. So, even when they have a good idea, it seems like this studio cannot not overcorrect. But hey, we'll see. One thing that is sort of novel is that you're seeing this thing, I'm sure, around in the press of Michael B. Jordan being mentioned as possibly the next Superman. I would say there's a 0% chance of that happening. I'm sure someone's mentioned him, just as I'm sure someone's mentioned every currently popular actor for every superhero role. In Warner Brothers, another thing they're sort of notorious for with these roles is that everyone that they had for a while coming in to read for Superman also read for Batman, because they just want famous guys in these roles, because they want big stars. Warner Brothers really, really wants Michael B. Jordan making movies for them, because every studio does, because this guy is a huge star. He's probably going to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Black Panther. That's very widely expected. It's widely expected Black Panther is probably going to get a Best Picture nomination, not a win, but a nomination. I hope it does. It's very widely expected he's probably going to get a Best Supporting Actor nod for Killmonger, because everyone came away talking about how great he was in it. And he's a very well-liked actor. Warner Brothers would very much like you to remember when that happens that he's in Creed 2, which they have coming out, and he's done a few movies under contract for them. They want him to be in movies for them, so I'm sure that they would love it to be in the press that they considered him for Superman. So there's that. This could also be his agent negotiating in the press. It would not surprise me at all that Warner Brothers has talked to him for a movie in the DC universe, if for no other reason than just to get him playing something. I can't imagine an actor with as many good prospects as him, who is also as smart about his career as he's been, actually taking that part. I mean, really, why would you play Superman if you're an actor? There's no upside to that right now. Superman is now 6 for 6 in terms of destroying the careers of actors who have notably taken that role in a lead thing. George Reeves, Kirk Allen, George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Brandon Routh, and now Henry Cavill. It hasn't gone well. The bar, the high bar for playing Superman and having good prospects after that is living. It's well, yeah, my career is all fucked up, and like maybe you only wind up doing like shitty Christian movies directed by your family, like Dean Cain does. Maybe your career only goes that bad. So why is he gonna undertake that part? That doesn't make sense. Uh, I think that is more likely to keep him from playing that than Warner Brothers not wanting to cast a black actor to play Superman. I'm sure that's been around. If you haven't picked up, there's a book about the history of production of every made and unmade Superman movie called Superman versus Hollywood. Very much worth a read. Will inform you that for a minute there, when they made the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, before they got him, the guys who were producing it, the Salkin family, the patriarch of that family is an older Israeli man. I believe I was Ilya Salkind, the first, who was the head of the family, that wanted to put this movie together. Really didn't know what Superman was, but he knew that it was a popular character and that he wanted to make like a mythic movie out of a big American pop culture icon. He thought that Muhammad Ali should be the actor playing Superman. He figured that would be, because this was the most popular celebrity athlete in America at the time, symbol of strength. That's who he wanted, and he had to be talked out of this by people saying, like, no, people would be upset about that because Superman is a white guy in the comics, Muhammad Ali is a black man. I don't know that he knew Muhammad Ali was, in fact, a black guy. I think he... In the book, it seems like he really just kind of looked at numbers and said, okay, that's the most famous guy, this is the most famous superhero, that's who should be playing him, that's like a done deal. I'm sure Warner Brothers has looked at people of color to play Superman. Will Smith, who usually doesn't like bullshit about these things, has said that he was offered Superman back when they were doing Superman Returns, and that he turned it down, in his words, because he decided not to take roles that were originally written as white guys after the reaction he got to Wild Wild West. Which always kind of to me is an interesting quote, because you almost never hear Will Smith be salty about racism in quotes. Like, he's usually, Will Smith very like in that point in his career was very often in the press, sort of in the Michael Jordan rise above it, I guess Republicans buy shoes too kind of thing, and but he was always very. You could tell that it bothered him that people got upset at him for Wild Wild West, which is a stupid controversy anyway, but. That they offered him to play Superman at one point, and he did not take that role. This was right around the time he also said no to The Matrix. They wanted him for he was the original pick for Neo. What a different movie that would have been. So I think, yeah, the reason you're seeing Michael B. Jordan's name mentioned alongside this is, one, Warner Brothers wants you to be thinking about Michael B. Jordan and Warner Brothers because they like him to be working for them. Someone wants his name out in the press. Could be his agent, could be him, could be Warner Brothers. Also, I do think Warner Brothers must be looking at the prospect of when they recast a bunch of these roles eventually. At the bare minimum, they're going to need a new Superman and a new Batman. This is probably salting the water for recasting one of those roles in a novel way like this going forward. I don't know that it's Superman. I think that it's harder to change in that respect. If you want to talk about inside baseball stuff, data-wise, apocryphally, good luck getting a look at like demographic sales data from studios and licensing companies. But apocryphally, supposedly, there's it's been a thing for a while that Superman is actually more popular with the African American audience than Batman, and vice versa in terms of merchandise sales. I have no idea if that's true, but it's a thing that gets said around a lot as kind of a why do you think this is sort of thing. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting theories about that. I don't necessarily know that I have any business opining thereon. I think for some reason it probably is thought to be more difficult to recast Superman because so much of the iconography is married to the idea of that kind of Norman Rockwell, Kansas farmer thing. And I think when you flip that around, it brings questions with it as to what this guy's experience growing up is and how that colors his perception of the world. So it would certainly be interesting to have that be a different a character who's other than a white guy. I think, maybe that is the secret to making him a different character. Maybe that is how you make that whole story relevant again. Maybe that's the way. It would not surprise me at all. It would genuinely surprise me if I woke up, tomorrow morning and they said, hey, Warner Brothers decided Superman is going to be a black actor in the next movie and we're just going ahead with that. I would say, wow, okay, that's a big commitment. What would not surprise me at all is if they cast a person of color to play Batman. It would not surprise me at all. I know it's come close a few times with various actors. You know, I know John Cho recently said that he would like to play Batman, I believe. I will say there's a lot of heat right now. That guy from Crazy Rich Asians, Henry Golding, he has his agent, whoever is representing him is really good, because pretty much every time there is a mention of a superhero role or an action guy role that is like traditionally a white guy and they don't know who they're going to cast, his name is all over the trades as, hey, maybe it can be this guy, maybe it's time for this character to be Chinese, or maybe it's time for this character to be Asian. Yeah. So it would not surprise me at all if I woke up sometime, within the next week, and someone said, "Hey, wow, they cast a Chinese or Korean or Japanese actor or a Latino actor to play Batman." That would be unsurprising to me. That seems like a very logical place to go now. I mean, I know people keep saying, "Oh God, we want John Hamm." It's not going to be John Hamm. If they cast John Hamm to be Batman, it's going to be for a movie where he plays Batman once and they pass it to another guy, because John Hamm is not a young man, and they want someone who can take this role and make a trilogy and make a bunch of movies out of it and they want to lock someone in for a franchise thing like the Marvel guys do. They want whoever plays Batman to be their version of Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and the problem with Batman vs. Tony Stark is that Batman cannot be played by an actor's floating head being green screened onto a robot suit. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happened. Wow, that ran as ever longer than I thought it would, but that's what I'm thinking about those newsworthy items. Once again, check out the link to The Escapist for the Q&A. Please check out my brother's Patreon and kick him some scratch on that if you can. Check out the MovieBob Patreon as well. Visit MovieBobCentral.com. And as ever, please continue watching the channel, and I will see you guys around.